It's a rough life. Living up to Lassie, it's a rough life. Trying to be so classy when I'm going through the garbage for a midday snack. Knowing I'm in trouble when the folks get back. It's a rough life. When fleas live on your belly, it's a rough life. When people call you smelly, I'm developing a complex. I might need a shrink. They blame me every time that something starts to stink. It's a rough life. Begging for a cookie is a rough life. Never getting nookie. They chase me from the kitchen when I start to beg. They think that I'm perverted when I hug their leg.
Hi, welcome to the show. My name's Jesse Goldberg, and my guest today is David Olney.
Hey, man.
So how are you doing? And you're like you have music that is so unusual and so, what's the right word? Different.
Well, thanks.
I mean, it's you don't seem to sound like anybody.
Yeah.
Or even the style of music, it doesn't sound like anybody.
Yeah, I don't know what your experience was. When I came to town, which was in '73, I thought, you know, they're going to go crazy for this stuff. And it took a pretty short time to realize they were not going to go crazy for it. And I spent a lot of time being kind of angry about that and what a bunch of Philistines. And then I thought, wait a minute, country music, Nashville has always done this thing. And for me to kind of blow in from, I was coming from Atlanta then, and think that they should somehow change the rules was pretty stupid on my part. I thought it was like if you wanted to be in the Olympics and you said, well, you know, you tried the pole vault, you tried the hurdles, you tried all the stuff and you weren't very good at it. So, well, I'll make up my own sport and I'll be the best at it, and then they should have me in the Olympics. That's the way I was kind of looking at Nashville. I spent a lot of time being sort of irritated and in a bad mood, and then I just decided that's the way I am, and just, you know, let things happen as they're going to happen.
So I should not be irritated in a bad mood anymore?
No, in your case, you should be irritated and in a bad mood.
Well, it's so where'd you start out?
I started out in Rhode Island.
And you grew up in Rhode Island?
First 15 years of it. My mom was from North Carolina. This is back in the early mid 60s.
So that's why you don't sound like you have a Rhode Island accent.
No. We would come down to North Carolina, so it didn't seem like this strange place where everyone wore a sheet and was crazy and all this stuff. It was just where my uncles and cousins lived. And when I started getting interested in music, all the music that I liked had this strong connection to the South. And I just had it in mind that if I get a chance, I'm going to go down there.
It does sound very bluesy, or not really bluesy though. It's like in between bluesy and folk.
Yeah, well.
Or it's almost like you could be one of those old black blind harmonica players. You know what I mean? One of those guys.
Boy,
you know
I mean, if I thought it'd be
you know, that everybody was named Blind something, or
yeah.
You know, that's what you sound like, one of those guys.
Well,
did you
that's
grow
good.
up who were your influences when you were growing up?
Well, my brothers, I had an older brother, and his record collection, which I was told in no uncertain terms not to mess with. So as soon as his back was turned, I'd get in there. And I remember he had a Lead Belly.
Yeah, Lead Belly was one of those guys.
Yeah, and Jimmy Reed, I remember the picture on the back showed Jimmy Reed's guitar and his harmonica rack.
Right.
And I thought, oh, that's how he does it. And then, you know, we had Woody Guthrie records, and then all the Kingston Trio and, you know, the stuff that you're sort of embarrassed to admit that you like now.
I really like Peter, Paul, and Mary.
Yeah, oh yeah, they made.
Did you ever meet them, by the way?
I met
Peter, probably.
Down at Kerrville, the one that's connected with Kerrville.
That's Peter.
Yeah.
Right.
I remember nothing about it.
Oh, okay.
And I'm sure he remembers
so after
nothing.
You 15 years old, you moved where, to North Carolina?
Yeah, basically. I went to go to school in North Carolina.
High school?
No, then college. I was,
okay.
you know, so it's like 17, 18.
Okay.
And at the same, it's in Chapel Hill, and there was a great music scene there, a lot of really great musicians. So I really fell into, I knew how to play guitar a little bit, and I really got into it. So I pretty much decided that, you know, I didn't want to go to school, and I wanted to play music, and that was the end of the old academic career. And
then you've been playing music ever since?
yeah, you know, you have to, I would have to do other things,
right.
you know. When I lived in Atlanta, I worked in the Atlanta Children's Theater. I remember I was Darby the Yodeling Dog and Alan Adale and Robin Hood. You know, I did that for a while, and then from Atlanta I moved up to Nashville and became a giant in the restaurant business. You know?
So what was the first bit of success that you've had? Was that the Jerusalem song?
Yeah, that was that kind of put me on the map. You know, Emmylou doing that song.
Yeah, I called a friend of mine. I've known for years, and I told him, I asked him if he knew you, right? Mm-hmm. And he said, "Oh man, he wrote one of my favorite songs ever." You know, and I said, "Well, what song was it?" He says, "The Jerusalem song." I said, "Oh, you mean that Emmylou Harris song?" So it's like I knew it, but he didn't. And then I went back and listened to it. And then I went back and listened to it. And when I listened to it, I said, without knowing, I said, "Is this about Jesus, or is this about something modern? You know, that is using it as an analogy or something?"
Well, it's about a guy who's. When I wrote it, all the sort of scandals were kind of happening. You know, Jim Baker and Jimmy Lee Swaggart. Jimmy Swaggart,
right?
Yeah, and isn't his middle name Lee? I thought
his cousin is
Jerry Lee.
Jerry Lee, right?
Well, Jimmy Swaggart, whatever. They were, you know, in hot water, and I was trying to think of a way to think of that and not be real judgmental about it, and I just sort of started writing this song. I thought maybe, you know, I wrote the first lines, and it was just a guy that took a certain pride in his ability to not tell the truth. And I thought, well, maybe he's one of these guys. And I got it, and I thought it was kind of a Western. I used to watch a lot of Gunsmoke reruns. I thought it was going to be, you know, out in Texas or something. And I just hit a wall on it. I'd had him in the desert, but I didn't know where to go. I thought, you know, maybe I'll move the desert. And I moved it to the Middle East. And then I went, oh, phew, here we go. And I think, you know, the fact that I didn't know what was happening while I was writing the song kind of translates to, you know, people hearing it. They go, wait a minute, what the heck is going on here?
Right. It's when you first hear it, it's surprising.
Yeah.
You know, don't know what's going to happen. You know, it's oh.
Well, that was the same experience I had writing it. And then, you know, I kind of wrote the words out, and then I thought, well, you know.
Was this did it take a long time to write this?
No, it was basically one sitting to write the words. And then I thought, well, now I have to make a melody.
Right.
And everything I sang, it just sounded stupid. You know, it just kind of clashed with the words. And I thought, well, maybe I'll just go ahead and talk this one. And I thought it was so strange. I thought, well, you know, I'm never going to be able to play this. And I don't remember what the play it out in front of people. I don't remember what the circumstance was, but people responded to it. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I have something here. And I thought, you know, the fact Emmylou, who was one of the great voices in country music, I sort of brought her down to where she didn't sing a thing on the.
So how did that get to Emmylou? How did she hear it?
She was recording, and it wasn't coming out to her satisfaction. So she kind of put the word out that she was looking for new songs. And there wasn't any way I was going to know this, but Kevin Welch and Karen Kane, I think Kevin had heard the song, and he showed it to Karen Kane. And Karen Kane, it was good buddies with Emmylou, and he made a tape pitching his songs, and just out of generosity, whatever, he put Jerusalem Tomorrow on it, and she liked it and did it.
Yeah.
So it was just completely out of the blue that I.
And it's also out of the blue, she doesn't do those kind of songs. Well, no, you know.
Well, she does whatever kind of song she wants to do. You know,
It was really good. I mean, I've heard since I've heard a bunch of different versions of it from different people.
Yeah.
You know, I don't even know there was some girl on the internet. You go
Yeah,
to,
yeah, yeah.
Go to YouTube and you see there's another one doing that one.
What's really?
But I really like the one that you do on the video.
Yeah.
You know, there's a YouTube video where you just kind of talk the whole thing. You do it slow, real slow.
Yeah, and that's with my friend Jack Irwin, who produced the CD that it's on. And it was just, a little flip camera. And I said, I want to do something with the song. It has to be real simple. Like, we couldn't edit anything, so it had to be one long thing.
Right.
So I said, well, I'll just, lip sync this thing, and you just kind of walk around me. Man, you should have seen me way back then. I could tell a tale, I could make it spin. I could tell you black was white, I could tell you day was night. Not only that, I could tell you why. Back then, I could really tell a lie. I'd hire a kid to say that he was lame. Then I'd touch him and I'd make him walk again. Then I'd pull some magic trick. I'd pretend to heal the sick. I was taking everything they had to give. It wasn't all that bad a way to live. Well, I'm in this desert town and it's hot as hell. But no one's buying what I've got to sell. I make my lame kid walk. I make a dumb guy talk. I'm preaching up a storm, both night and day. Everyone just turns and walks away. I can see that I'm only wasting time. So I head across the road to drink some wine. This old man comes up to me and says, I've seen you on the street. You're pretty good, if I do say so myself. But the guy come through last month, he was something else. Instead of calling down fire from above, he just gets real quiet and talks about love. And I'll tell you something funny. He didn't want nobody's money. I'm not exactly sure what this all means, but it's the damnedest thing, I swear, I've ever seen. Since that time, every town's the same. I can't make a dime, I don't know why I came. I decide I'll go and find him and find out who's behind him. He's got everyone convinced that he's for real. Well, I figure we can work some kind of deal. He offers me a job, and I say fine. He says I'll get paid off on down the line. Well, I guess I'll string along, don't see how too much could go wrong. As long as he pays my way, I guess I'll follow. We're heading for Jerusalem tomorrow. You know.
Well, getting back to the song itself.
Yeah.
Did you think, was the first reaction to the song, was it a Jesus thing, or was it a parable sort of, or an analogy?
It wasn't like that. It was just, here's this guy, he's doing this stuff. What's he going to do next? Oh boy, he's over there, and you just let the song do what it's going to do.
Yeah.
And I mean, in my mind, I knew that he had run into Jesus. And it turns out, it sounds like he's talking from a modern point of view, and then you realize, no, he's back there, and he just assumes Jesus is a con man, just like he is, and he just thinks, he's making all the money. People seem to be really not money. He's getting all the attention, and I'll just kind of pick up whatever tricks I can.
Maybe he's got a job for me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So after that, after you got that cut, how did that change things for you, money-wise?
Well, it made money. I mean, it was the first money I really kind of made in Nashville.
Right.
From songwriting.
What year was that when you did that?
I think it was like '98, maybe.
Really?
I don't know.
Okay.
What's time to a pig? I don't know.
What year was it?
You know. Well, she's gone. Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, the main thing it did was, I had spent so much time. I'd been in town for 20 years, so it was earlier than '98, and just really hadn't gotten any kind of cut like that. And you have to sort of develop this thick skin about it, but suddenly to have someone, take an interest in your song gives you a certain kind of legitimacy, and it just makes it easier to think, yeah, this is what I do. Yeah. I'm pretty good at it,
Well, speaking of which, let's get a picture of some of these. I don't know which one came first, but let's get a picture of some of these albums. Which came first? This one, probably?
Yeah.
You look the youngest on this one.
Yeah.
This is, what's it called, David?
Contender.
David Only and the X-Rays.
Yeah, that's a rock and roll band that I had, and we did this in, I think, 1981. I think it came out in 81.
It's on Rounder Records.
Yeah, and they were like mostly a folk album, but they had George Thorogood, so I think they were thinking I'm maybe one of them.
You're a hard guy. You have a very unique sound. What's this one called? I can't see the name.
That's called Top to Bottom, and that was for an Italian label, Appaloosa. And I don't know where they are now.
And then I don't know which one of these came first, but I got a whole bunch of them here.
Yeah, I always say I'm going to keep.
I'll just show them. I'm just going to go through them. All right?
Yeah.
Kristen, here's one. I don't know which one comes first. There's a David Only CD. Can you get a little closer on that? There's another one. Let me throw in mine here. Well, look, there's my dog, by the way. Okay.
He looks just like the other guy.
There's another one. Well, this looks like an old. That's the same one as the other one, isn't it? As the album?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
And we got another one here. Look at all these seats. Oh, this is upside down. Well, that one still got the price tag on it. And
that's the one that Emmylou Harris heard. That's she ended up doing Jerusalem Tomorrow. She did a version of Deeper Well, which is on there.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
And she sent a Linda Ronstadt, you know, told her to listen to Women Across the River, and Linda Ronstadt did that. So Emmylou Harris has been great for me.
Yeah, she's still doing that song?
I don't know. It's, you know.
I saw her a couple of years ago. She's the youngest looking older woman I've ever seen.
Yeah, she's very beautiful.
I can't believe how young she looks.
Yeah, well, I think there's only a certain amount of good lookingness that goes around. And
yeah,
she got more than her.
So after you did that, now you go around and play in all these different venues now.
Yeah.
What kind of places are you booked at, since you're not country and you're not folk and you're not?
It's all different. I would say the core of it is, for the last couple of years, it's been house concerts. But we play, you know, bars and, you know, theaters.
Oh, before we get into that, let's get to this Boots Are Made for Walking thing. What made you do that song?
It seemed like a good idea.
Really?
And yeah, it was. Someone came up, they wanted to do it. The guy was, you know, a good fella, and I thought it involved going over to Jack Irwin's, and we did our version of These Boots Are Made for Walking, and then I did the vocal. And that was kind of a challenge to stay as true as we could to the original, which is a very cool recording.
It's kind of an odd, it's a Lee Hazelwood song.
Yeah.
And it's kind of an odd chord change there. These boots are made for walking. It goes to, I don't know what the chords are there, but.
One of these days, these boots are. Although the main thing, the hook is a doom, 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 doom. And that you got to kind of sit around and figure that out, just exactly how they did it. And Jack could break the stuff down, so it's actually, there's two basses going on. One was going doom, 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 and then it gets to the bottom, it goes boom, boom, and it switches to an electric bass. You keep saying you got something for me, something you call love, but confess you've been messing where you shouldn't have been a messin'. Now someone else is getting all your best. These boots are made for walking, that's just what they'll do. One of these days, these boots are gonna walk all over you. Yeah. You keep lying when you ought to be truthing. You keep losing when you ought to not bet. You keep saying when you ought to be changing. Now what's right is right, but you ain't been right yet. These boots are made for walking, that's just what they'll do. One of these days these boots are gonna walk all over you. You keep playing where you shouldn't be playing, and you keep thinking that you'll never get burned. Ha! I just found me a brand new box of matches, yeah. And what she knows you ain't got time to learn. These boots are made for walking, that's just what they'll do. And one of these days these boots are gonna walk all over you. Are you ready, Boots? Start walking.
Getting back to your roots and who you grew up with.
Yeah.
And were you influenced by a Bob Dylan at all?
Yeah, how could
Anybody could not be, right?
Yeah, it's like you know, Dizzy Gillespie got some kind of award, you know, in the 50s or something, and his acceptance speech, he said, "I'd like to thank Louis Armstrong for inventing my job."
Oh,
and
okay.
I think that's what Bob Dylan invented my job. And everything kind of, he's the trunk of the tree, you know. I'm glad that it's kind of for a while.
Trunk of the tree. Did you just, you know, you're not going to believe this, but I was just at the Great Escape.
Yeah.
And when I was a kid, I had this album. I used to get I magazine. I don't know if you ever remember that at all. It's like a hippie type magazine. So it had a poster in it with Bob Dylan as a trunk of a tree. And all the other people were on their branches, and they had all the names of the people on the branches. And I just found it at the Great Escape with the same poster in it.
Really?
It's actually worth $102 on eBay, by the way. Just so I let you know that. But I mean, it's
Why the $2?
that's what somebody sold it for. so
I hear 103?
that's what it sold for. Anyway, it was. That's funny that you would say that. The trunk of the
Well,
tree.
I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, everyone, and for a while everyone was trying to sound like Bob Dylan, and finally, I don't know, other sounds kind of came about. But and thank goodness for Bob Dylan, but it began a period of this kind of the sort of cult of the songwriter, and instead of people concentrating on the performance they heard, suddenly it was the songwriter was the big deal, and I think that kind of hurt music overall. I mean, I think when things work best, you've got really good singers and you've got really good songwriters, and they meet each other.
Oh, I don't agree with that at all.
You don't?
No, because when I first heard Bob Dylan, I remember exactly where I was. It was at my friend's house. He called me over and he was playing Bringing It All Back Home, which is not his first album, but it was, you know, I was behind the times. So I first heard him, I said, "Oh man, this stinks." He said, "But this is the guy who wrote Mr. Tambourine Man." I was like, "It sounds terrible." And then I started listening to it. I said, "Hey, this guy's great."
Yeah. Oh,
You know,
I mean, he is great.
I mean, I'd rather hear Bob Dylan singing Mr. Tambourine Man than the Byrds singing Mr. Tambourine Man.
I would too, but I would rather not listen to whatever that guy's name who did Eve of Destruction and.
Oh, Barry McGuire?
Yeah, I just soon miss, you know, just miss that one.
Exploding.
Yeah, and listen to some Gershwin or some, you know.
That was kind of a non-poetic, whatever that was. You know, it didn't seem in the same class as the Bob Dylan.
Yeah, it was coming. It was done for the money. You know, it's pretty clear to me.